Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. So today what we're talking about is the National Association of Realtors, the lawsuit. But we're going to do it a little bit differently, okay? Because there's 1,000 videos. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon to make YouTube videos about it, and they're pretty much repeating the same things, okay?
Right.
You're a realtor. So I'm going to approach this as, are you out of a job? And how's it going to affect the consumers, the people buying and selling,
right?
Okay, we already know how it's going to affect the realtors because there's 5,000 videos talking about what realtors have to do.
Right.
And I read it all. I'm not a realtor, full disclosure, but I read it. And in my opinion, there is a segment of people that it's going to hurt, I believe, as it stands now. But as of today, today that we're recording this, nothing's changed because it has to go through. It has to go through the.
This is the
judges.
first draft, right? This is the first draft. It's got to go through the court approval process, which we haven't had yet. So,
and I have a feeling the court approval process may have some problems with this thing. If you really dig into it and think about it, they might say, no, that's not good for FHA buyers, VA buyers, first-time home buyers, and we're going to talk about
we'll talk about it a little bit, because what I don't want to do today is, and it's hard not to, especially with this, is get into the what-if game.
Right.
We're going to touch a little bit of what-if, because it's hard, we have to.
You have to.
But I don't want to what if this and what if that, because the rules haven't been set yet. So for us to do that, it wouldn't be a good idea, because things are going to change. So we'll update the video, as new rules come out, once all the realtor rules. So the settlement agreement has to go through its process.
Right.
Once the settlement agreement is approved, then the rules have to be written, and all the other rules have to be amended.
But I am going to give you guys a spoiler alert right now, okay? People are still going to buy homes, and people are still going to sell homes, okay? Spoiler alert.
What? Yes, we're still going to buy and sell homes.
So we're going to get started. In the meantime, if you can subscribe, follow us, hit the bell notification, share the video, it's greatly appreciated. It really, really does motivate us, and it really helps. So Bill, NAR, basically National Association of Realtors.
Yep.
Okay, what they decided to do is put a settlement agreement out there. Not that it's been approved, but they decided.
Right.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Give an overview.
Right. So NAR's not admitting guilt. So what the whole premise of this case was, there was a lot, but in general, what my biggest pet peeve and my biggest issue is, and what you all are seeing right now, is what the news media has been spinning. No more 6%, no more buyer's agents, no more this. Housing market is going to come down. And there's nothing in here in our previous rules or the settlement agreement that actually says anything about 6%.
No.
So commissions have always been negotiable. They were negotiable yesterday, and they'll be negotiable tomorrow. Some of the rules are going to change for us as realtors on how we handle those things.
Well, before, just so we know, multiple listing service would have the commission for the buyer agent on there. That's going away.
Right, and we'll jump into all of that.
All right.
I just did, everything was negotiable. So when a seller was going to sell their house, a realtor would go over and say, okay, this is what we're going to do to sell your house. This is our marketing plan, and this is what we charge for X services on the top line item. And now, mind you, before we get too far into this, different states have different rules, and different states have different contracts. So I can't speak to any other state. I can only speak to what Florida does, because that's where I'm licensed.
Right, but this is a national change.
Right, but there's states that already have these rules in place.
Okay.
So same thing with, there are already, like we're a non-dual agent state. We can't be a dual agency state. Other states you can have dual agency.
All right, why don't you explain what dual agency
I don't want to get too, this is the rabbit hole I'm trying to stay out of.
All right.
But dual agency is, so there's a fiduciary responsibility on one side to the person that you're contracted with. You can't have fiduciary responsibility for two parties in a single transaction. We call that dual agency.
Okay. right.
So we operate here in the state, it's already pre-assumed as a transaction broker, which limits our fiduciary responsibility to any one single party. Simple terms. That's
All right.
very, very basic.
So let's just say these rules are accepted. Okay, let's just say hypothetically. I think there's gonna be changes, but let's just say that they're accepted as they were proposed. So now you're coming to my house to give me a presentation on me selling my house. Okay, before I would have to offer the buyer's agent, if I remember this correctly, at least $1.
At least, yeah. Again, some people were 1 penny, some people were $1. And that's what the premise of this was, decoupling commissions and who paid the commission. So the seller would pre-negotiate compensation to whomever procured the buyer. Whether it be typically another real estate agent, or even if the real estate agent that you hired to sell your house procured the buyer, then that's already pre-negotiated, then they could potentially get both sides of the commission, because it's a total commission at the top, and then we have what we call cooperating brokerage commission that is offered out, and that's what was advertised and is going away.
All right, so now say the rules are accepted. Now you come to my house. Now, what happens?
So there's two sides to this. There's the buyer side and the seller side. So it's probably easier if we just kind of roll through this, so we kind of stay in some sort of order, because otherwise we might get a little all over the place here.
But then I'm going to give you some things that I think that may go wrong.
Oh yeah. There could be some pitfalls, and I don't have all the answers right now. This is going to be somewhat of a draft. Now, MLS Penn lawsuit, so that's a different MLS in another state. They've already gone through a settlement as it pertains to the lawsuit. The Department of Justice, the DOJ, has objected to a few things, and they adjusted those things. So supposedly this agreement that NAR drafted in the overall settlement agreement has addressed the DOJ objections.
Now, what you're reading is from the draft that they proposed?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
what I'm reading is from what NAR sent out to the realtors.
All right, so just bang.
And then I have some highlight points in the back.
All right, so let's bang through.
So, in a nutshell, compensation offers are going to be moved off the MLS. So normally you would be able to go into the MLS,
the agent,
and I would look at and see that there is an offer of compensation of whatever was negotiated with the seller. And I could see that. That'll no longer be there. It's really not that big of a deal. We're still doing business, we're still selling houses. So one caveat to that is offers, if the seller chooses to offer to a buyer's agent, they could potentially put them on to the broker's website for the broker's listing only, on their own private website.
On their own listings.
But only their own listings. So Zillow can't send it out there unless it's maybe one of their listings, because technically Zillow is a brokerage. So this is where I'm talking rules are going to change and they have to fix things.
And a third-party company can't create from what I understand from reading it, they can't create a website that purges all the information together.
There's no data aggregate to where everybody can put this on there, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is if you're a buyer and you come to me as a real estate agent and say, hey Bill, I want to buy a house. Before we open the first door, I send you the first email, anything, we're going to hash out commissions. So before, the seller would dictate what commission was being paid to a buyer's agent. Now, the buyer is going to dictate what commission is being paid to the buyer's agent, the representative that's handling the buyer side of the transaction. The seller is the seller's agent, and the seller are going to handle their own. It could take a couple different forms, which is totally cool. And it's just we're moving the shell around a little bit. It doesn't mean that the seller can't pay. And here, let me read you. I want to kind of read through these.
All right, go ahead, read them.
So, written agreements for MLS participants acting for buyers, which we just kind of went over. It must be negotiated with the buyer prior to showing. And one of the key things, so that nobody can kind of circumvent, and the loopholes have been tied up a little bit, which is good for everybody. This is a positive for everybody. It has to be done, and it has to be crystal clear.
Can't be like up to 3%.
It can't, nope, it has to be, this person will get, the buyer will get a flat fee, a percentage, whatever, a flat fee and a percentage, any combination thereof. That's up to the buyer and the buyer's agent. And it's also up to the seller if they choose to offer some sort of cooperating commission, and that can come out of the listing agent's commission. It could be offered in what's called a concession, and that's where it gets into, like we talked about, VA and stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. The other big thing that is being put out there in the news, and I want to talk about this because this is a good one, is will this save money for buyers and sellers?
All right, this is, okay. People are putting out videos saying, oh, home prices will come down. That's bull. Right. I don't care what anybody says, all right? It's not true. I don't care what people are going to say, hey, I get to keep an extra 10 grand in my pocket or 8 grand or whatever it is.
Right.
You know, that's what's going to happen. They're just going to pocket the money. They're not going to lower the price of the house.
No.
And if you believe they're going to lower the price of the house, you're wrong.
You know how that we have so much data? There's a lot of data on this already.
Yeah.
And you know how that is? For sale by owner.
Yeah.
I don't see huge discounts in for sale by owner deals.
No, some for sale by owners, I've been looking at them too. They're more expensive than they should be.
Exactly. So what makes people think that this is going to lower? I get it, the for sale by owner is trying to save a little bit of money on maybe the listing side, and hopefully that they're offering something to a buyer's agent to procure them, because that's marketing in essence.
Yeah.
It's a marketing dollar. There's an expense to buying and selling properties.
Right.
So, but maybe they're not.
All right, what's the next one?
Okay. So that's the big one. Will it reduce prices? It's gonna maybe look like it's reducing prices because we're putting things on different lines, but at the end of the day, I don't see this reducing prices of homes in any way, shape, or form. No. I see the hurdle coming for people who are first-time buyers, VA and FHA, but there are a few things that can be done to fix that too.
And we're gonna talk about that too, but see, like my problem is, like, people are gonna say, say the market becomes soft, not because of this lawsuit. It becomes soft because people just can't, because of inflation, because of jobs, because of employment, and the prices come down. They're going to say, see, because of this lawsuit, the prices of the homes went down. No, it's not.
It's not. It's because the prices of homes, it's supply and demand. Things aren't changing. If we have no supply and there's a high demand for homes, the home prices are going to stay up. It's just the way it works.
Right.
So if we get more supply, things are going to soften, prices are going to be reduced, we're not going to have as much competition, and the prices may soften up a touch.
This is my opinion. This lawsuit and this settlement will not affect the price of homes, in my opinion. No way, no how, I don't see it.
Right. I just don't see, I can't fathom how this would
Inflation will affect the price of homes, employment, interest rates, all that stuff. Go ahead.
So, as we said, cooperating commission is no longer required, which means the seller doesn't have to offer a commission to a buyer's agent. There's pros and cons to this, but at the end of the day, we can kind of get into where people are going to have to pay. So if a seller has chosen not to offer compensation to a buyer's agent, this is where it kind of makes the playing field level, because think about this. If I'm going to show a house, you're my client, you're like, Bill, I'm not paying you. They're not offering to pay me, right?
Right.
Well, I can't pay you because I don't have, but we've already negotiated that. But there's a term in there, and you sever ties with me, whatever. We haven't made these forms yet. But
yeah, I want this house, but I just don't have the money to pay you.
I can't pay you, right.
I know I signed the agreement, but...
Right, and obviously these agreements don't exist, so we don't know what the terms of the agreements are going to be. But I would think in logical terms, there would be some sort of a way for an agent to get out.
That was my question to you. Like, okay, I signed the agreement hoping that the seller will give a contingency that they would pay the 3% or 2%, whatever it is.
Whatever, it could be 4%, could be 6%.
Yeah, I'm just saying it could be anything. So now we put in the offer of the house. Okay, we're offering $200,000 for the house, and we need them to pay your fee. Now they said, okay for the price, but no, we're not paying your fee. So now you have to come to me. You already showed me the house.
Yep.
You already wrote up the offer.
Mm-hmm.
You already handed the offer in.
Yep.
And they rejected paying your commissions.
Right.
But they accepted the price. But I really want this house.
So this is where things take on different forms.
Okay.
And this is where rules have to get changed before we can do certain things.
Okay.
So now this is also where having a very educated agent on the buy side that has support, a team, some knowledge behind them is going to become critical. Negotiations. It's not just going to be pushing paper back and forth, because now we're going to have to think about concessions. So the seller says, hey, I'm not paying a commission to you, but maybe we can negotiate a concession on the other side because it's not called a commission. So sometimes that benefits the seller, serves the buyer, and still accomplishes the goal to where the buyer then has the money to pay for their representation. So let's say the representation doesn't happen. Guess what? Nobody works for free, right?
Right.
So I'd be people would be like, all right, see, we're out of here. Well, I'm just going to use the seller's agent. Well, guess what they have to sign? An agreement.
An agreement.
Before they can do anything with the house.
Yeah.
And what's that agreement for?
Commissions. but
this is where it gets a little weird.
But Bill, I'm going to hire you as a realtor.
Yep.
You're going to have to, by the rules, if they get accepted, sign this buyer broker agreement. It's say hypothetically it says 3%.
Okay.
I'm going to say, Bill, I'm signing this saying I'm going to give you 3%, but between me and you, I don't have the 3% to give you. I barely have the 3.5% for FHA.
Right.
So I'm struggling to get that, but I'll sign this so you don't break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the money.
Right. So you could shop around for every agent because every agent can set their own commissions. But if you say you have nothing, then you're going to have to maybe get to an agent that has a little savvy. And we're going to have to go in and make offers that have concessions in them. Now, let me say this. People have been buying and selling for sale by owners since I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
People are doing other deals left and right. Other countries do this. This isn't something that just was invented.
No.
And the system still works. There's buyer's agents and there's seller's agents. I know everybody talked about like Australia or something. Well, we don't have buyer's agents per se.
Isn't it Canada have something like that?
Canada has something very similar to what we do, from my understanding. And they don't have problems getting people to pay, because it's just about who. The whole thing is about who paid the broker.
So here's the deal, okay? We're not even talking about realtors, how it's going to affect them. There's 1,000 videos there.
Right.
But I'm just saying is it going to affect big investors? No.
Nope.
Is it going to affect, even people that just buy multiple houses? No.
No, probably not.
They know what it's going to affect first-time home buys. That's why I think the Department of Justice is going to say, hey, I understand what you're proposing, but FHA and VA, from what I understand, I'm not a mortgage person, will not finance commissions.
Correct. That's why we're not there, but they will work with concessions.
But they work with concessions.
And it doesn't typically, depending on how you write them, where you have to work with your lender on the program that you're in. But this is where I talk about an agent's going to have to be savvy to represent their buyer. They can put that in there, and it doesn't go against your total amount of prepaid contributions towards closing costs and prepaids, because there's a cap.
So basically, how this is going to affect the weak realtors that aren't savvy and don't know how to put these deals together. They're going to be bye-bye.
It's going to be very difficult, yes.
So there's going to be a big drop-off, and it's not just pushing papers anymore.
No.
Now you have to really negotiate, because you're showing somebody on a house on the premise that you're a good negotiator.
Right.
Because you already know they don't have money.
Right. It's like when you go to a listing appointment. The people who list their homes typically go with a few people and interview them, and then they pick the person that they feel that best meshes with them, has the most experience, has the better presentation. Just is kind of everything's got to line up, and I win some, I lose some. It's just the way it works. But now that's going to be on the buy side too.
Yeah.
So you know, agents are really going to have to step up their game with this. But at the end of the day, it's not affecting it's affecting us, but it's not a huge change. We're moving line items around. There's some skills that are going to have to get brushed up on for sure. My biggest concern is going to be VA, FHA, and first-time home buyers, or people that don't have the money to do that. There are a few avenues that we can go into.
It's not going to lower prices of homes.
And it's not going to lower prices. I can't fathom that. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, it's not going to lower prices of home. Anyways, at the end of the day, you still go out and buy a home. You can still pick a realtor. Now you have to be a little more cautious on the realtor you pick. I'll be nice about it.
Right.
You know, you have to be like, do some research into the realtor that you're hiring, you know?
And it's not all about reviews too. So I know everybody looks at reviews. So I do want to point this out, because a lot of people go, oh, well, you only have so many reviews. A realtor that may have been on a team when they were getting brought up into the system and learning, and you know, the team is usually the one that gets the review, not necessarily the agent themselves.
Yeah.
So there's agents that I know that have unbelievable amounts of experience and are fantastic agents that have now branched off on their own, but they have very limited reviews.
Like 5 reviews.
Because they've started out on their own, but they're an amazing agent.
And just because they're a relative of yours doesn't mean they're
Right.
a good realtor. So just think about that one. Anyways, I don't want to drag this video on, but at the end of the day, go buy a home if you're ready to buy a home.
Exactly.
Nothing's really changed, and no rules have been accepted yet.
It's business as usual right now. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, they're planning on July, but you know, tomorrow we could wake up in the morning and it'd be like, all right, here's a new draft of the proposal.
Right. They were saying this stuff wasn't even coming for probably till 2025.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows?
So this is what you need to do. You need to subscribe, so when we do an update, updated video on the new rules, you won't miss it. Hit the bell notification. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
See you on the next one. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.